Welcome to Headliners Forum. We're here to bring you the best in Texas journalism, the stories behind the great stories. I'm your host, Mark Morrison. Our special guest is Dennis Foley. He won the Charles Green Award honoring the state's best radio reporter for 2022 for his work at KTSA San Antonio. This award is presented annually by the Headliners Foundation of Texas in partnership with the Texas Managing Editors. Dennis, congratulations and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Your reports cover a broad range of subjects. Tell us a little bit about your background and your approach to radio reporting.
Yeah, so my background is being a radio reporter. My biggest stint as a reporter was in DC working for WTOP in Washington, where I was a street reporter covering whatever happened that day. Could be a car crash, could be a science experiment at NASA, could be, the Pope is coming to DC to a marathon at the Pentagon. Every day was its own challenge, and just being able to quickly adapt and get an understanding of the story and going and filing in an hour and getting whatever sound I needed. That was the bulk of my background. But before then, it was a lot of news, college, studied journalism in school, but also was really involved in our college radio station that really, I think, from a competitive standpoint, gave me a leg up on a lot of my contemporaries who were the same age, where I had 3 years of experience covering stuff in New York for radio, producing it for radio. So when it came to my first job, first full-time big boy job, I had the experience that being able to go out and cover something with no problem.
Part of your award-winning entry were reports on immigrants being transported illegally across Texas highway in large trailers. Tell us about your coverage of this problem, which seems to be a recurring one in Texas.
Yeah, and one element that I wanted to include in the story, because not only is it for our local audience in San Antonio, but also for a broader national audience, is that that specific story was a tragedy where 50 plus people were found dead inside a trailer. But these trailers are found all the time in the San Antonio area, and I had been covering them for my entire time in San Antonio. Different parts of the city, they find these trailers, and then they find people inside them. Usually they're alive, and then it's a matter of trying to find where all those people had gone. But in this case, it was a major tragedy that naturally brought big headlines and really captured the nation's attention. But trying to put that into context where people can understand that this is not just a one-off. I mean, it was a one-off that 50 people died, but these incidents happen all the time, and a lot of people, based on my experience being in DC, being in New York, people don't understand that level of context. It's the what's happening in my backyard moment, where people in other parts of the country don't necessarily know what's going on down here, and being able to provide that context really helps explain the story beyond just the basic facts of what's going on.
Right. And with the short time spans you have in radio to deal with, you have to work at that to get that context in, I'm sure. What story was the most challenging to cover last year?
So Uvalde was a challenge, and this was more not because of the story itself, but more the business of radio, if that makes sense. So we had a very efficient team where I didn't have a lot of people to send out and cover stuff or be able to go out and cover things myself. And this was one of those moments where we had a major event going on. At the same time, our CEO was in the building from corporate headquarters in another state doing an all-staff meeting. Everyone was tied up there. We were short a person trying to get another reporter on the team, and basically having to carry the load, not only for our station, but you get calls from ABC and CBS. It's a local story. They want to know who's going to be able to help them out with that, and just working to get the story covered, getting the details, parsing through the facts, while also getting information out on the air, negotiating, letting everyone else in the building know what's going on. It's one thing for me to know what's going on as a reporter, but letting the bosses know, hey, there's this big story going on out in Uvalde, and we have local hosts, get them up to speed on what's going on, letting them know what's going on before I even go on the air with what I have to know what's going on. So that's more a radio business challenge, or more most challenging story, just because it's not just going out and getting info from people and trying to piece the story together, which in itself was a challenge because all the information that we had gotten up front was unclear, opaque. When they would have these news conferences with the officials, they didn't take questions and they didn't really say anything in them. And you have listeners out there that are like, well, what's going on, and not being able to explain it. And then the weeks after, where we're learning more about what actually happened in Uvalde and trying to explain that after all the context that had been laid out beforehand, and trying to reframe everything where it's like, okay, this is what they told us originally. Now this is what the governor and what investigators are saying actually happened. That was just a messy story. A lot of that was due to the sources, but you have to be able to continue following the story and understand as the story progresses, where it originated and where it is now, and be able to kind of keep in mind that some people may be a few chapters back and catching them up on what's happened throughout the process.
Right. Radio is now competing with multimedia that is readily available on the internet. How does this change the role of radio?
Yeah, so I find radio to be great for live breaking, happening right now moments. It's the most efficient way to get information out, where if you're carrying, like, let's say we'll use Uvalde as an example, where the governor's having a news conference. On radio, we can go live with that news conference right then and there. TV can basically do the same thing. And on the website, you're either streaming it live, or you have to, hear what the governor's saying, write what the governor's saying, and then publish what the governor had said. So there's a delay in that side of things. Radio has a place in the marketplace, and radio's been around for 100 years. So like it's survived the test of time with all these new competitors coming in and new challenges and new ways of getting information. But the biggest thing is being a convenient option for people that are in their cars, or maybe they're at work and they can't watch TV, or they can't stop and read a San Antonio Express News article about what's going on while they're driving in traffic. You're trying to get to wherever they're going. So it's an understanding your place in the marketplace and delivering content that meets the needs of that person in that situation.
Right. You recently moved from your great career at KTSA to Houston Public Media. What is your new role?
Yeah, so a little weird. News reporter in San Antonio, and now the director of content at Houston Public Media. So I'm overseeing all of our talk shows, all longer form programming, which I had done a little bit of in San Antonio, overseeing the syndicated talk show and all the news stuff and all the managerial kind of semi duties. So there, it's understanding the product that they have available, the resources that they have, in terms of the news product, and the staffs that each of the shows have, and working with them on creating a product that's relevant to the Houston audience. And Houston has a great opportunity for a real strong news and spoken word product. And for me, it's the challenge of navigating the market and navigating everything comes with a new experience, to try to help the team there put together a really engaging and high quality radio product that delivers the information and really entertainment that they deserve.
Right. Well, certainly good luck with that. We like to share the views of news professionals with journalism students across the state. What is attractive about a radio news career, and how can a student best prepare for this field?
So the biggest thing is, it may be surprising. Well, it's a mixed bag, but there are more opportunities to get into a really good position in radio. And because I know stations all across the state, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to, out them, but there are stations across the state that have a challenge bringing in good talent. And if you're a great talent and you're looking for an opportunity to work in a large market or even a medium-sized market, it's a great way to get your get where you want to go and showcase your talents. And also, personally, I went to school with a lot of TV students, and I can say that my first professional full-time job paid more in radio than a lot of my TV colleagues did. So there is a demand for people, for journalism students to get into radio, and you can build a solid career out of it. It's just understanding the business, and it may not be as glamorous as TV, but there are different qualities to it that that may appeal to some people more. Like for me, I enjoy the quickness, I don't have to put together a 2-minute package on a story that on radio can be 30 seconds. If I'm at a news conference, I know the basic details that I need, put that together, send it in, done. I can move on to something else. And plus, radio is fun. Like it's a fun environment to be in, and that's what we're in the media business. Most of us are not going to be millionaires from being reporters and anchors and all of that. But radio is supposed to be a fun experience, and who can say that they can go into work and have a crazy idea and be able to go into a radio studio with mics and all the professional equipment and actually make something happen. So it's a fun environment to be in. You just have to be of the mindset to go and seek it out and try to have fun with it.
Right. Dennis Foley, thank you for sharing your reporting experiences with us. Victor Hernandez of WBJR Boston, the judge in this contest, complimented your clear writing and strong audio craft via use of select sound cuts to bolster the listener experience. Congratulations on your great work and on your Headliners Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
On our site, headlinersfoundation.org, you can link to some of Dennis's outstanding work and to interviews with other award-winning Texas journalists. For my colleague and Headliners Forum producer, Gary Pickle, I'm Mark Morrison.